Let us talk about J.D. Vance, the man anointed as the Rust Belt prophet. He was the poor kid from Ohio who made good, the Marine who clawed his way out, the Yale Law star who was supposed to know better. For 5 glorious minutes, he was everyone's favorite conservative intellectual, calling Donald Trump a fascist, a moron, and a con man on national television. Liberals nodded along, thinking they had found an unlikely ally. Then, in a stunning act of political amnesia, he was on stage hugging Trump like they were long-lost brothers. What happened? The answer is simple. Peter Thiel happened. Peter Thiel is a billionaire who operates like a Bond villain, if a Bond villain preferred black turtlenecks to white cats. He does not scream or rant. He just sits there, staring, until you agree to his terms. This is the man who wrote Facebook's first check and sued Gawker into the ground for sport. His next hobby was acquiring a pet senator. He spotted J.D. Vance and decided, yes, that Appalachian boy will do nicely. Suddenly, Vance's campaign was flooded with Thiel money, a deluge of dark PAC cash. If you look it up, you will find Thiel has invested over $40 million in our esteemed vice president. And just like that, Vance's moral objections to Trump evaporated. It turns out principles are no match for a billionaire whispering in your ear like a Sith Lord. So Vance kneeled. He kneeled so hard he left permanent knee marks in the Mar-a-Lago carpet. Now he smiles next to Trump, but everyone with eyes can see the strings leading back to Thiel's Silicon Valley lair. This is not politics. It is one very rich man playing with dolls, and the dolls are performing a perfectly choreographed dance. I have introduced you to the players. Now I will dive into the cold, dark water and swim to the bottom of this iceberg. I want to reveal the 2 powerful factions on the right that have formed an unholy alliance. I speak of 2 groups led by powerful elected officials and funded by even more powerful unelected billionaires. Their distribution of power created a temporary balance, allowing them to establish a political roadmap for the next 3 years. The agreement they made is the reason I am writing this. It is the whole purpose behind Charlie Kirk's death. One faction is led by Peter Thiel, the chess master and master puppeteer. His man in the White House is J.D. Vance, an elected official he personally invested $30 million in. Vance is the White House backdoor for Thiel and his interests. The second faction in this convoluted assassination is made up of President Trump and his hardcore MAGA supporters, with billionaire Elon Musk as their financial sugar daddy. It is practically common knowledge that Musk and Thiel despise each other. By extension, their factions are locked in a brutal fight for survival, each craving absolute control of the White House. This is where Charlie Kirk's assassination becomes necessary. Buckle up. Here is my theory. I believe Peter Thiel is aggressively pursuing the possibility of J.D. Vance running for the presidency as the natural successor to Trump. Thiel and his faction have invested an incredible amount of money in Vance. They built this guy for years, moving him from a nobody to the vice president in just 4 years, but Thiel has a problem. Elon Musk has direct access to Donald Trump and Thiel cannot stand it. He needed a political roadmap that would secure his own easy access to the Oval Office. So how does Charlie fit into all of this? Charlie was a young podcaster, the head of Turning Point USA. He was 31 years old and, most importantly, he had a massive following with millennials and Gen Z. In 2 to 3 years, when today's teens become voters, a primary race between Charlie Kirk and J.D. Vance would have been a massacre. Kirk would have kicked Vance's corporate purchase butt all over the field. The thought of someone like Charlie stealing the presidency from his prize puppet was too much for Peter Thiel to bear. I imagine the deal like this. The Elon Musk and Donald Trump faction needed to stop the political bleeding from the Epstein files. Peter Thiel's faction needed a clear path for their puppet J.D. Vance to run for the White House. So they shook hands. Thiel's faction agreed to resolve the Epstein files cluster in return for the elimination of the one and only Charlie Kirk. I believe this deal was forced in darkness and blood. A dirty dark group was organized by Thiel's faction and put into action, so the only solid roadblock for Vance's nomination could be removed in one afternoon. The other faction, the group that is running America through the authority of the president, chose to look the other way in return for blocking the release of the Epstein files. It was a brilliant pact executed and sealed in a single day. Let us add this fun fact to the mix. Shortly after the Senate blocked the release of the Epstein files on the very day of Charlie's assassination, Kash Patel, Mr. Justice himself, went in front of the House committee and declared there is no such thing as the Epstein client list. He said no names exist. and all those poor underage girls were trafficked to nobody. We are supposed to believe those girls climbed onto the Lolita Express by themselves for a joy flight between Epstein Island and the US. The entire thing was pre-manufactured. The suspect, the footage, the autopsy report, all of it was planned and staged for the FBI's so-called investigation. The FBI's investigation into Charlie Kirk's shooting is the kind of performance art you only get when the government decides to cosplay as detectives. They started by arresting the wrong people, not one, but two. Because why stop at one innocent life ruined when you can double down? That is not an investigation, that is a raffle. Then the entire case just showed up at their office like a Grubhub order, neatly packaged evidence in a manila envelope. And let us not forget the magical note from the shooter. The note the FBI never had, yet they knew exactly what it said. The Bureau has evolved past paperwork. Now they just manifest crime scenes with positive thinking. This is not a bureau, it is a clown car. Every time the door opens, 20 more guys in cheap suits tumble out holding empty notepads. With the Elan faction's approval, the faction that is the head of the federal authorities, what could have stopped Peter Thiel from snatching Charlie Kirk's life to clear the path for J.D. Vance's political rise? Let us call it for what it is, my creative fiction.